Hey friends, welcome back or to Acre Homestead. My name is Becky. Today we are going to deal with this bed here. I've got two beds in the back of my garden that have kind of been a sore spot for me. Last year was my first year gardening and I couldn't get anything to grow in these beds hardly at all. There are some pretty big trees above me right here that kind of shade out these two beds. So these beds probably only get about 2 hours of direct sunlight a day. And so I tried to grow carrots and dill, and I honestly can't remember everything that I tried to grow in here because nothing grew really, except for kale. Kale grew very well in this bed. I did a section maybe like 3 feet by 1 foot where I planted kale pretty heavily, and it actually thrived really well and it came back. If you see those little stick-like things, those are the remnants of the kale that I actually let my chickens manage. One thing about these two beds is I've ignored them and they grew a ton of weeds, and I've kind of felt guilty about it, and so I just really haven't been dealing with it. But then I had this aha moment that what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn this bed and my other bed next to it. I don't know if I'm gonna get to the other bed today, but this bed is gonna be a kale bed 100% exclusively. And the reason I'm doing that is because my chickens absolutely love kale. Because kale is actually their favorite vegetable. They really like actually anything that's in the brassica family, but they have this really big affinity to kale. So what I did yesterday, because the weeds were so bad in here, I went ahead and I put my chickens to work. They needed to work for me. I knew that I wanted to get this bed planted today, but I didn't feel like weeding it because the weeds were so bad. I put my chickens to work. So they are not freeloaders around here. They are gonna work for their own food. I'd built them a little chicken run out of scraps that I found around my property last year for when they were little chicks, and I would let them free range. Well, not free range, I guess, but I would let them out on the pasture, my front lawn, in this little chicken run. And it's been sitting on the backside of my shed, kind of rotting and decomposing. It was made out of pretty decomposing materials to begin with, and so it's been sitting outside for another year and it's pretty dilapidated. So I had this aha moment. I am gonna take this little chicken run and I am gonna put it on the bed, and I'm gonna make the girls weed the bed for me. I actually have them starting to work on the bed right behind this one we're gonna do. You can see they didn't do 100%, but they did a fantastic job. I didn't have to manage this at all except moving them from place to place. And so it was very little effort on my part. So I'll take care of these little weeds here, and I'm gonna let them go to town on the bed next door. I wanna try to feed my chickens more of homegrown things. Now I can't grow them like wheat or corn or anything like that, but I can try to grow them some of their own greens. So that's what I'm gonna do here, because I can't really grow much of anything for myself on here except for kale. But I mean, how much kale do I really need? We do eat a lot of kale, but not an entire 16 by 4 foot bed worth of kale. So I am going to grow it for them. So instead of this bed sitting here basically empty like it did last year, except for that little patch right there, we are going to try to grow something in it. I forgot to mention that I was actually able to grow celery back here, and it grew really well. So celery must not need that much sun. This is the root that I just took out of here. It actually overwintered and we ate some fresh celery. Oh, here's the tag. It was Utah tall celery. So I have already planted all my celery starts over in another bed, but if I find some when I'm at the feed store or something like that, I might throw some celery starts in here as well and let them eat the celery. So I have this pile of kale stems, and this is my no-till garden bed right here. And one thing I did last year, and I don't know if I was supposed to or not, but I would take scraps like this and I would just and let them decompose. So I'm kind of doing a compost in place along this bed. Right now I have potatoes in there and there. And that's just a way to make my life easier. Instead of having to go all the way around the shop where my big compost pile is, I can just do it right there. I'm gonna go ahead and move the irrigation system out of the way just so I don't damage the tubing at all. The irrigation system is just held into place with these little staples. So I'm just gonna take those out, kind of put them in the corner because that's usually where I store them when I'm working on a project like this, so that I know where to find them when I go to put it back where it goes. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to take this hoe and kind of break up the soil just a little bit, because there is some unevenness from where the chickens had been digging. Now I'm going to go ahead and take a couple wheelbarrows full of horse manure and try to amend the soil. I was thinking as I was working that one of the reasons I really want to make sure that these two beds in the back of my garden are productive is I spent good money on the soil to fill these raised beds and the wood to build the raised beds. So I was feeling really guilty about the fact that they weren't being used. They were just sitting here idle. It feels like a waste of money to me. So that is one of the big motivating factors for me to get something productive growing in this area. When I was planting around my tomato plants, one of you guys made a really good point about when you use horse manure, you need to be careful about dewormers, because the dewormer could live in the manure and affect the worms that are growing in your garden. Now, I hadn't thought of that, and that is an excellent point. This horse manure has been composting for over a year, and I don't feel like I have to worry about the dewormer issue because there are thousands and thousands of worms in this manure. And so that was a fantastic point, but luckily enough, I don't think I have to worry about that with this manure in particular. Sorry if you can hear my neighbor mow her lawn, but we are ready to plant in this bed. It says the red Russian kale takes 7 to 14 days, so today is May 2nd. So we are gonna see how long it takes for this to sprout. The one thing that I think is going to be nice about growing kale in this bed is because it gets so much shade, and I'm not starting this inside, and it's not going to be out here growing like in the spring. It's going to basically be growing all summer long. I think these plants actually might benefit from the shade. All I'm going to do is go ahead and do a light sprinkle. I might do 1 or 2 of these packages. We'll just see how far it gets us. So I'm definitely going to need 2 packages because I got to about right here with 1 package. With these 2 packages of kale, I was able to get about 3/4 the way done with one of the beds. So I ran inside and I grabbed a blue Scotch kale. This was kale I bought January of 2019, and then I got some red Russian kale as well that I bought in 2019. Now I want to talk about seeds and seed prices and seed varieties for just a second here, because I was looking at the price of these and I paid $2.79 for 10 grams of seeds for this red Russian kale at my local nursery. And that's approximately 3,000 seeds. And I paid for this package of kale at Baker Creek about $4.90, and it says on the package that it is about 250 seeds. So this is exponentially more expensive than this. I'm gonna actually look up Lake Valley and see if I can buy seeds online from them as well. If you're new, you might know that this is only my 2nd year gardening. My 1st year gardening was the garden season of 2021. And in January, I bought 90% of my seeds from Baker Creek. And I did that because a lot of the people I follow on YouTube recommend Baker Creek, and so that's what I did. I went with where a lot of them buy their seeds from. But these are the exact same variety, and they're both heirloom seeds, so I'm not particularly loyal to one seed company. I'm probably going to be more loyal to an actual variety of seed or an actual variety of plant that I like the taste and the texture of the vegetable from. So I just want to be more aware of when I'm buying seed, where I'm buying them from, because I spent a lot of money on seeds the last 2 years. And if I can find that variety or an equivalent variety for a cheaper price, I'd like to do that, because one thing about gardening is, obviously I know that I put a lot of money into this garden already. You know, it wasn't cheap to build the raised beds and put the irrigation system in and everything, but I want to try to offset some of those costs by growing some of our own food. I'm actually starting to learn the names of some varieties. Like I was able to buy Black Beauty zucchini at the Dollar Tree for 25 cents for a seed pack of like 15 seeds, as opposed to paying like I did at Baker Creek for like $3.99 for the same package. I do like to support local companies when I can. Like I bought these seeds from my local nursery, but I do want to be a little bit more aware of seed varieties and seed costs. That's just something I'm going to be paying a little bit more attention to in the following growing seasons. I do also like Emma Gardner's seeds. His seeds are pretty affordable. They did double in price last year though. And there is a couple local seed companies to me. There's Territorial Seeds, and I'm going to butcher this other name. It's a Japanese name, I think, and I'm going to insert it right here. And that's another local seed company to me. Well, local is in that they're in Oregon. I'm in Washington, and they have some really unique seed varieties where I wanted to buy some of my tomatoes from them because I couldn't find those tomato seed varieties from anywhere else. Let me know where you guys buy your seeds, if you buy them at the big box stores or local nurseries or Dollar Tree, or if you have online companies you like to buy your seeds from as well. My neighbor is still mowing, and I have a feeling she's going to be mowing for a while because we live on acre lots and she's got way more lawn than I do. I'm going to go ahead and just get this done, and then I'll do a voiceover. So what I'm doing now is just taking my hands and lightly fluffing the soil and the seeds together so that the seeds can kind of work their way into the soil. And then I'm going to pat it down to try to anchor those seeds in place. I have 12 paper pots here. These were paper pots that I had planted loofah plants in, and I didn't read the directions well enough when I planted these loofah plants, and not one of the seeds germinated. So I was going on a girls trip the first week of April when I planted these seeds, and the instructions on the loofah plant said either soak the seeds overnight for 24 hours or nick them. and keep the soil really moist while the seeds are germinating. And I didn't read that, and I didn't do either of those things. I watered them really well after I planted them, and my husband asked if he should water them while I was gone, but I was only going to be gone for 3 days, so I didn't want him to have to worry about that because he's busy and he has other things that he needs to do. And so I figured I would just water them really well, and then when I come back I'd water them and they'd be just fine. But nope, not one of them germinated, and so I don't want to waste this. This is Pro Mix starting mix, and I figured this would be a great way to use this soil up without just tossing it or having it go to waste, because it's nice and light and fluffy and it'd be easy for the seeds to germinate through. I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle this Pro Mix on top so that there is something covering the seeds lightly, so that they stay nice and moist while they're germinating. And now I'm going to give the seeds a really big drink of water. I have my irrigation system set to run every morning at 5 a.m. so they will be watered every day. I want to give them a really good drink of water right now so they get a good head start. I'm glad to finally have this bed done and ready to go and start growing food for the chickens. It's kind of been this eyesore for me and just giving me a source of anxiety because I know it needed to be done, and I just haven't done it, and it feels so good to finally have it done. I really hope that it's productive and grows quite a bit. I have a couple other projects around here that are like this, where they're just weighing on me and they just need to be done, and it feels so good to finally have this one done. Back here, I've carefully angled my camera shot so you can't see this back area. There's a dead tree over there, there's weeds. This whole area just needs to be mulched. I should have mulched it last summer, but I never got around to it. You can see the difference between the areas that are mulched. They stay nice and weed-free, almost weed-free. And that just needs to be taken care of, because when I sit over here and look this way, I sit and look at that and it irritates me. So that is a project that is going to be done pretty soon here. Maybe next weekend. I can't get to it this weekend, but maybe next weekend. Thank you guys for hanging out with me in my garden while I got this project done. I really am having so much fun with you guys hanging out with me. I don't feel like I'm out here by myself. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps YouTube know that you guys are liking the content I'm creating. If you want to see what else I've got going on around here, please subscribe. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you guys next time. Bye guys.